to We'll Throw the After Party, your weekly live show where we're breaking down all the shows we're watching, talking about pop culture, and ranting quite a bit. Pull up a seat, get your drink, because we've got a lot to celebrate tonight and a lot to rant about tonight with the finale of Miss Marvel. We're halfway through Only Murders in the Building. We have the Emmy nominations, which are an entire situation we need to unpack together tonight. And this is the last show that all four of us are going to be on together for the next few weeks because we all have different summer vacation schedules. So next summer, we're going to have to plan our vacations ahead of time so this doesn't happen again.
Listen, when Liz pitched rebranding the show, she was like, it's going to be great. We'll have 4 hosts, so it won't matter if one of us can miss it. And we really took that in stride.
We really said everyone rotate a week, right? But I'm so happy to be spending tonight with all of you and all of you in the chat. Hello to all of our friends and everybody watching. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. And hello to everybody watching the replay. Thanks for coming back and watching whenever and wherever you're able to. We see you logging in every week, and we're so glad that you come back to enjoy the show on your own time with us. But besties, how are we doing tonight? It's Saturday. Lots of TV has been watched this week. Lots of opinions have been shared in the group chat this week. Marissa, where are you checking in?
I'm good. I am still in California. I'm still in Jack's apartment. He is not here right now. I'm home alone, so he will not be
Brother
barging
Bobissa
in.
stands are crying in the chat right now. I think Alexis and I are spearheading the Brother Bobissa fan club.
Yeah.
But I am in his room right now. So this squeaky chair is all his fault. But yeah, I'm good. I'm here. I'm excited. I'm also sad that we're not going to be together for a long time. But that just means this is just going to be the best show because
we have to. I hope so.
Too much pressure.
Too much pressure. I was going to say, you know that your joke about a chair being too loud is good when Sly's giggling in the corner at it. How are you doing tonight, bestie?
I've had a chaotic day for no reason in particular. I just haven't been all here. So this will be an interesting show. Let's say that.
It's always one of us. There's always one person that shows up to the after party feeling a little bit more chaotic than normal. Not to be that person, but I'm glad it's not me for a change. I feel like the last 3 months of episodes, it's been me that's been had a day every day. So thank you for taking one for the team and being our sacrificial, chaotic person.
You know what? It was bound to be my time.
Valid. And Alexis, you are here. We are happy you are here.
Yeah.
You slid into the show at the last second, but you did make it.
I'm here.
And how was your week?
Oh gosh, it's been chaotic. It was this was a week where I worked days all week, so it's kind of
different.
Yeah, different. But I'm here. I'm ready to talk about some exciting stuff. So
Sly, give everyone the line of the week every week. We're here.
We're here. We're queer. And we're throwing the after party.
And we're throwing the after party. Before we get into what we've been enjoying this week, I have to ask. I've seen some tweets about how this week specifically was a great week to be a Jane Austen fan. Is that true, Sly, or is every week a great week to be a Jane Austen fan?
This week was a win and a loss. So net even.
Not even for Jane Austen fans. Got it. Okay, so fill us in. What's been going on?
All right, so this weekend, right now, going on is Virtual Jane Con 2022.
Why aren't we there? Is this the after party for Virtual Jane Con?
There's still many panels to be released. There's been a significant chunk so far, but yeah, it's just cool people talking about different aspects of Austen, Regency era, etc. Lots of cool things. The Discord has been having group chats to talk about the recent different Austen adaptations and Austen adjacent works that have been coming out in the last recent bit. But also Persuasion came out yesterday. And oh boy, is it a
A
movie.
journey. A journey.
It's a movie. It's something. So here's the thing. Full spoilers for Persuasion. If you want to experience it on your own, I'll leave you with this thought. I wish I was inebriated to see it. Okay? Like I needed to not be sober.
Here, I'll put a spoiler warning up for you. And I'll take it off when
Why do we need spoiler warnings? This book was published in 1870 something.
For the movie.
For the movie.
So as
I don't
an
know what kind of
adaptation,
twist they're gonna put on there. Sorry.
The problem, like my main initial problem was it was trying to be like farcical and like really play into like the physical comedy, like farceness, and then also it was taking itself way too seriously. It thought it was like innovative, and it wasn't, right? It's this idea of recently it seems like projects are trying to do the Bridgerton style with the very purposeful, like anachronistic moments, but they don't understand why Bridgerton was successful in doing that, and that like Bridgerton knew what it was and really embraced that and leaned into it. And this didn't. Also, like characterization wise, they made some choices. They made some choices I loved. There were some characters that I thought this was like the best representation of them. But that was not the case for the main character. And I think they legitimately did not understand who Anne Elliot is as a character. And it showed. Like, they just completely botched everything that makes her who she is and how she interprets the world and reacts to situations. And they also didn't trust the audience. It felt like everything was so watered down that they didn't any complexities from the characters from the story were just smushed down into a very flat story and a very flat characterization. They didn't trust the audience to be able to engage with the like themes and topics within this story. So, it's something. I will say, if you want to get really drunk and watch a movie, I think it would be a great drunk watch. I honestly believe that. There's a lot of fun things there, but just overall,
I think we need to start a list of the shows and movies that this show would recommend watching with your vice of choice. That's an angle we have not done before. And the new Zombies movie is out. I have not watched it yet, but I certainly will be enjoying that with a little cold drink in my hand. For the sake of time, I also want you, Sly, to just read out the last point of what you've been enjoying this week, but not elaborate on it.
If you want a little bit of elaboration, you can check out this week's Point in Progress episode, which I copied directly this quote from last night's show doc, and I just put a legitimately egregious amount of Teen Wolf fan fiction.
Gorgeous. I'm so pleased for you. Honestly, not a bad week to be Sly. In fact, I would say a lot of great materials to support the Sly brand this week. So pleased for you.
Sorry, speaking of JJ, hi JJ, hanging out in the chat. I also watched Bad Buddy, which if you want to know my thoughts on that as the weeks go on, come hang out on Thirsty Thursdays, where JJ's watching Transplant and I'm watching Bad Buddy. And
so pleased.
It's very fun.
Incredible. I'm so pleased y'all are watching Transplant. It's so good. Marissa, you've been watching something that required 3 exclamation points beside the name.
Yeah. Also, my ring light just died, but I'm going to fix it. But I can keep talking during it. This is good.
I actually
Continue.
insist everyone have a shadow over their entire face during the show.
Okay, I fixed it.
Look, there you okay, fine. It'll just be me. What were you watching this week?
What We Do in the Shadows is back. Season 4. I was just really excited that What We Do in the Shadows is back, and it got 3 exclamation points.
That's big for you. That's a big rank from Misa Bobisa.
Yeah, I What We Do in the Shadows is a show that I just turn my brain off for, and I just enjoy
Absolutely.
just the most I don't even know what adjectives would be appropriate to describe the characters on that show. It's just fun. So, I enjoyed some fun. It was a 2-episode premiere, so I had lots of gay vampires to enjoy.
Beautiful. We have the vampire community represented. We have the wolf community represented with Sly. I think we're hitting all of the 2010s era fan communities all in one show. Alexis, are there any communities you would like to sponsor this week?
Alexis has been rewatching a show from 2010. No.
Iconic. Which
No.
show?
No, that's not quite right. I just started my Leverage rewatch this week. So that's they're filming.
Alexis? Watching Leverage?
I'm watching Leverage. I know, shocking.
I felt slightly responsible until Alexis clarified that this was a plan, because I texted her for a very specific Leverage detail, and then Alexis was like, I'm about to rewatch Leverage, and I went, oh no.
Am I responsible?
We celebrate a Leverage rewatch. No, they're filming season 2 of Redemption, and there has been a lot of I don't know, weird press about it lately, or weird talk about it. Gina Bellman has posted a lot of stuff in which she looks younger than she did when she started the series. There were some weirdly, I don't know, sentimental posts from Christian Kane, and then this really bizarrely under-researched article kind of set the fandom abuzz by claiming that Mark Sheppard was coming back as Sterling in season 2. So that caused a bunch of buzz. And all of that kind of culminated in Alexis deciding to rewatch Leverage again.
And we all say cheers to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers with our late night coffee.
I've also gone back to the
Are we all drinking coffee?
Are we all drinking coffee?
Hell
Alexis?
yeah.
I don't have coffee tonight. I have.
But Alexis
I
has been drinking
have-
coffee most days. So
Yeah.
you know what? You do get a pass.
Thank
You do get a pass. I also journeyed back to the 2010s this week with not of my choice, but Breaking Bad's what's been on the TV every day. I mean, it's a show that we have started many times and never finished. Possibly because I can't sleep when we watch it because I get so invested in it that I'm off the couch by the end of every episode without realizing. But just one of the most infamous shows of the 2010s, and we're watching it a decade later. Nothing else to say about that. It is what it is, and I'm still getting surprised by it every episode. But you know what I didn't enjoy this week? I did not enjoy.
Everybody buckle up.
Thank you. That's good. It's actually a good segue to our rants of the week. I did not enjoy a half hour before an afternoon of meetings, the Emmy nominations coming out and being as messy as they were. Because I only had so many minutes to process it for myself and then process it for the internet. And the internet did not get my best lens of commentary. So tonight I'm going to hopefully make up for it with a little bit of a rant to summarize some of my feelings around these nominations. That's not just me saying I'm disgusted by them. So that's what I'm ranting about this evening. Marissa, what are you ranting about?
I had no idea what to rant about this week, so I put a call out on my Instagram just with a suggestion box, and I got a few, so I'm just going to do all of them.
Beautiful. Sly?
My rant's going to be a surprise this week. Y'all don't get a cheeser.
And Alexis?
My rant is JJ's fault. My rant is, I said Fox's social media, but really how the entity that is 911 in existence is stalking our live show. That's what my rant is going to be about.
I'm excited for all of these. A truly chaotic week. Buckle up, everybody. Everyone ready to rant? Never. Okay, let's get started. So the Emmy nominations did come out. I think that it's absolutely obscene to expect anyone who does not have full-time capacity to do pop culture analysis to have watched every single nominee of the Golden Globes, the Emmys, and the Oscars. And with that said, I would never claim to have watched every single nominated project, of which there is literally, I think, over 140 this year. But I am still very surprised at some of the major snubs from major performances that I thought would be frontrunners.
Okay, the first thing on my list of rant suggestions is Emmy nominations. So I'll just run through it really quickly. Selena, snubbed. Our Flag Means Death, no noms. Honestly, that's fine. I don't think it's the most superior of television. Really thrilled for Abbott Elementary. Andrew Garfield is now an Emmy nom. Moving on, Minions. I don't like them. I don't like the Minion movies. I have watched Despicable Me begrudgingly, like against my will.
I'm gonna take y'all back a couple weeks. Before we started Only Murders, right? I went to find the press kits, and the Hulu press website requires an account to get images. So obviously I applied, right? And we heard back very quickly afterwards that we were denied. And I thought, this is fine. It's fine. I get it. We're very small. Like, we're not like a reputable press person yet, right?
So how this all started was that there was a convention adjacent in Paris. And at this convention adjacent, some human who I wish would identify themselves on the internet so I could bow at their feet, decided to ask two of the actors from 911 Lone Star why TK ended up wearing shoes in bed. And the answer was this really like, well, we couldn't film it without the shoes, and shoes are really complicated, and like...
Oh, it's my turn, but I'm trying to post a story about how we're live right now so people will come watch. Okay, to continue. I do think that there's a problem with amateur analysts not understanding that people should be considered for the role they play in a show. And this is where the commentary around Selena is getting really nasty, because she was cast to play the straight man against Martin Short and Chris Martin. Not Chris Martin, is that his name? No, what's his name?
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. Oh my God, I'm so tired.
Back to the Minions thing. I have seen Despicable Me against my will. It was on while I was babysitting. And I'll be honest, I was glued to that screen. I didn't like it. I don't want to admit that, but I was glued to that screen. However, I've not seen any of the other Minions movies, and I will not see any of their other Minions movies. All my love to Dame Julie Andrews. I don't care that she's in Minions 4. I will not be watching it. The next suggestion, how the spicy tuna roll took 100 years to arrive and wasn't even spicy. Bunky and I went to dinner. We got sushi, and I was really waiting.
I get it, right? They didn't approve our account. It's fine. It's fine. We start doing the show. We start making promotional images for us talking about Only Murders, and it originally was like okay because every other site was posting the promotional images and we could just kind of rip them, and it's fine, right? But as the weeks go on, it has gotten harder and harder and harder to procure these images because they won't give us an account.
So some nice person on Instagram posted this story, the explanation of the question and the answer, and some random person that I don't know that follows me on Twitter sent it to me so that I was aware that it happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great, because when Max Gal was on our show, we talked about shoes. Sly did an excellent job at asking this question where Alexis was like, I'm just worried about the shoes in the bed. And like Max Gal had like important things to say about like, culture and shit.
So amateur commentary or commentarists, whatever the word is, people that don't understand like the role that a character plays in a show, commenting that the person who played that role was bad, like I have a very fundamental problem with. The second thing I have a problem with is understanding that the nominations are always going to be skewed towards like network and angles and publicity, which is why like a show Pam and Tommy would get so many accolades, so many nominations, even though fundamentally they should not even have been on the board. That was what Hulu decided to push this year, so of course it would be nominated.
Back to the spicy tuna thing. So Bunky and I went to dinner, and we went to like a sushi bar with like the rotating conveyor belt of sushi, and all I wanted was a spicy tuna roll, and I waited so long, and it never came around. And it was on that belt the whole time. And I just like literally sat there looking at the belt, waiting for it to come around. And I never saw it. It finally got there like an hour in. But I don't understand why.
It would be one thing if we were just taking these images and like either like not having like appropriate commentary of the show or just like ragging on it or something, but like we are doing a show where half of our show basically is dedicated to doing a deep dive to talk about the show, and we've brought in so many viewers of both season 1 and season 2, and the fact that we are struggling and scraping to find promotional images for our show to promote them.
Okay, so if that's all that would have happened, I would not have enough of an ego to be like, oh, it's because of our show. But then the Fox social media person decided to post a deep cut of behind the scenes 911 footage that included a giant red inflatable man just flapping around in the wind. And it was sent to me by JJ. And I was like, clearly this show has been stalking us, because I don't know how you get...
I need a suspect board of like our moments to Fox, and like I need that. We're gonna have to do that next week. Okay, when Alexis and I do a show without everyone else, that's gonna be the entire show with us mapping that out. Okay. Abbott Elementary should sweep. We should support the hell out of them because they genuinely deserve a sweep. We love a sweep for shows that deserve it. I think the only way the Emmys can redeem themselves is if they bring me in to host the red carpet. I'm awaiting your call, Emmys. I have a lot more to say. Andrew Garfield should not have been nominated because I want to do a series talking about how he interviews, and I can't because he keeps getting nominated for things.
In conclusion, the spicy tuna roll took forever to get there, and it wasn't even spicy when it got there. And then the last suggestion, why all your friends are you in different fonts. Liz is me, but more aggressive. Sly is me, but nicer, just generally nicer. Alexis is me, but more confident and independent. Bucky is me, but younger. Who else? Everybody else
so
is
this
me.
is my formal application to whoever approves accounts at press.hulu.com. What do we need to do to get an account with you? All we want to do is promote your show and talk about how much we love Only Murders in the Building, and we are struggling to do that without access to your promotional images. Please just give it to us. I feel like I'm sacrificing my firstborn to the devil every time I try to find an image.
So I feel like now that there are two things that clearly means that they are following our show. And then I was in the comment section of an Eddie Diaz thirst tweet that the Fox social media network put out, because apparently they are Eddie Diaz fans. And they also made the comment that you could almost believe he was all-American, which is how Liz defines Eddie Diaz. And I am incredibly confused.
No, it was Marissa. It was Marissa.
Okay.
No, it was me.
No, Liz said it, and I backed her up.
Me.
You bet.
Oh. I
This
just
is too
remember
much.
Marissa and I arguing about it.
Yeah,
Like,
Those are too many deep cuts.
that's really impressive.
To the
I also
person
wanna
running
say-
that watches the show, hello.
hi. I would
love
like
you.
to be your friend.
Hit us
How
up.
are you?
You are very welcome at our after party, bestie.
Just as a follow-up to my collection of rants, there was one other suggestion that wasn't appropriate to discuss on air, but you know who you are, and if you would like to discuss that further, my DMs are open to you. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you with.
Send it to the group chat, bestie. I'm curious.
Yeah, I would really like to know. But we will hold you all in suspense as we move on. We are on a tight schedule this evening. You know, we're going to pour the hot tea. We're going to sip the hot soup, and we are going to move right into who we think did it, talking about Only Murders in the Building. This is your official spoiler warning. If you're not caught up on Only Murders, get out of here, because we're about to spoil the heck out of it.
That was
for
the
you.
most Canadian out you've ever said in your entire life. Oh my god.
I tried my best. You're welcome to have the show spoiled for you. However, we do recommend watching. What we're going to do is break down what we think is happening with who we think killed Bunny, with all the new clues we gather, new context from this episode. We're going to name our suspect of the week, but first, we are going to recap the episode for you in a very rowdy recap segment. once again, besties, I do not want to start the segment because I don't remember how the episode started, but I can certainly come in and pick up where someone left off. Who would like
You
to start?
sat there. You sat there in the pre-show and said, "We'll just do the regular order." Do you know what the regular order is?
Not
It's
me.
you first.
Not me.
Oh
Not
God,
me.
no! I don't remember
think
how
it
this
has
episode
to-
starts.
Based on the notes I'm saying, it has to either be me or Marissa.
Okay.
And I
Wait,
think
wait,
it's
wait,
me.
wait. Let me cheat.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. No,
when I
I'm
do
ready.
the recap, I'm just going through my bullet points notes. Like, that's it.
Oh, I didn't know we were using notes to do this. It comes
I've never
straight
cheated
from my
before.
noodle.
I'm ready to cheat this time. Okay.
No cheating. Okay, Sly, you're starting. Ready to
All
kick
right.
it off?
Wait, how long? 30 seconds?
30?
each.
Okay.
All right, so we start with Lucy filming a video of herself in what we later find out to be the tunnel or the secret passages or whatever. And then we see Charles on set, and he's given a wheelchair, and his character has a touch of dementia. It's fine. There was yodeling, and then we run into Teddy in the elevator, and that seemed a little kinky, gotta say. And then we see Selena being Alexis. I'll elaborate later.
I don't know what that means.
No clue what that means.
Play games on your
Oh, I know.
telephone. Okay. Yes, you're right. I understand what that means now. Yes. Selena and Martin Short meet Lucy, and they cannot handle how young she is. And Steve Martin says, "Go play games on your telephone." And I hate that I understood the Gen Z language, but I also felt 95 years old. Then they discover the murder weapon.
The knife that killed Bunny is in Charles's knife block, and Lucy pulls it out, and we realize it was a knife taken from Oliver's apartment that the murderer had stabbied and then gone into Charles's apartment, stuck it in his knife block to make it look like they did it. And then it got stuck in the ceiling, and there was a funny bit with Howard, who came back to admit that he admitted something that I couldn't pay attention to because I liked the slapstick comedy of the knife being in the ceiling. I didn't pay attention to him. He left.
They went to Nina's, yes, maybe. And there was a speech about being a good dad, and there was a baby. Why do I have to wrap up this entire show? And then eventually we find out that Lucy was there the night shit went down because she ran out on her mom's wedding, and she was in the secret tunnel with the scary person, and Charles keeps putting people in cars that know more than he does, and I don't know.
Jan! And
That
Jan!
was incredibly accurate.
Okay, yes, it did.
Alexis, you
Thank God.
nailed that. Oh my god.
We actually did that.
That was a good
That
We
was like the
actually
best.
went through the whole episode.
I will say there was an odd subplot of Oliver's son directing a school play and Skittles having product placement in the show very obviously. And that was interesting to me. Hulu, get your bag, I guess, from Big Skittle. That's fine.
I said this really was the parents episode, right? Because we get
Mhm.
Oliver with his son directing. We get Nina and Charles talking about what it means to be a parent. We get Mabel talking about complicated relationships with losing father figures in various ways. We got there was at least one other one. Oh, we got the Theo and Teddy argument. It really was the parents episode.
Yeah. At one point in my notes, I literally just wrote sparkle emoji, parenting, sparkle emoji.
You did. We also both
Parenting.
wrote in all caps secret tunnel in our notes.
Yep.
Hell yes.
Yep. We love a secret tunnel. Let's name our suspect of the week. If you know the segment, if you watch every week, you know I named our first suspect of the week, which was none other than, everyone say it with me, Timothy
Chalamet.
Chalamet. And then last week, Sly named our suspect of the week. Everyone say it together. Jeremy Lin. Really good teamwork here. And we've named some suspects, both realistic and unrealistic, including we're still holding on to Wacky Inflatable Man. We're not convinced he's not a part of this. But Alexis, I think it's your turn to do the honors of naming the suspect of the week.
Can I disclose how this suspect of the week came to be?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay, so what happened was Alexis ran into this show just on time. And the first thing that I heard was, are there some really hot guys that do MMA? And do you know of any of them? And I may or may not have been like, yes, do you want a list? And so we were thinking of hot MMA men in suits that aren't super problematic, which is a bar. And we came up with Paul Felder. So Paul Felder is our suspect of the week.
Hooray. So this is in reference to a line that's said in the show where I don't remember if it was.
I have the direct quote.
Thank
in
you.
my
Please
notes.
give it to us.
Super hot MMA fighter in a business suit. And my comment says, I don't like men TM, but is he really that attractive? Question mark.
We didn't really get a good shot of him, did we?
No.
No. We were kind of looking at him through the grates of this secret tunnel into Nina's apartment. I will say, in all seriousness, he is looking like a lead suspect right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of the episode framing, we saw this figure in the tunnel with Lucy in the flashback. He seems like, I have a theory. Would you like to hear my conspiracy about this ambiguous figure? I think he's using Nina to get the space in the building. He made her fall in love with him. He's like, get you on the board. We got to push Bunny out. Like, I think he might be pulling some puppet strings here, and he's going to backstab Nina, get out of there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is not the actual MMA fighter that we're talking about. We're talking about the character on the TV show who was described as an MMA fighter.
Yes, thank you.
Different
so much.
actual suspect of the week.
However, do we have a photo of that man? No. So we will be using Paul Felder as the placeholder for that man.
We do have a photo. That
Oh, we do? Okay. Let's pop
Sly comes prepared. Nobody else does.
Can we get a round of tacos in the chat for Sly, please?
So the character's name is Jared, which we got from the episode.
Ew.
According to IMDb, his last name is McGregor. So that's something. And I pulled the actor. I don't remember the actor's name. It was something super generic. But I pulled one of his IMDb photos so he could be my suspect of the week on our second board.
Jared is a bad name. I don't trust that at
Alexis,
all.
say it.
We can't say the other part of that name on this show. I refuse to be in any way associated with it. So we're just going to have to call him Jared.
It's going to have to be Jared. Can we get that photo up on the people who want to hurt Bunny's side of the board, please?
Talk about MMA fighters that aren't hot in suits.
I was wondering who this random man was on the board.
Oh, no.
That's who it is.
It's not a random man.
Not a random man. Okay, let's review the people that want to hurt Bunny, because we did learn, like we said, a lot about this guy. We also heard some new stuff about Howard this week. I forget specifically what was said. Does anyone remember what Howard came and revealed to the team?
So
Nina
Howard
punched him.
Originally said he was playing with Sevelin, which is the replacement Evelyn, and that's the cat, and that's why his eye was beat up. And then this week he was like, no, actually Nina punched me. And I went, all right, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
This episode really said we're going to take all the loose threads that we've left for the past 3 episodes and bring them back at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
They really did.
This was really a callback episode.
I would like to throw it to Alexis. Did you think when Howard first came to us with this story about the cat being the reason for the black eye that it held any ground? No. As our resident cat expert.
No.
So this has always had no legs to stand on for you. So we do believe him now that he's coming to the team. Now, do we understand?
I don't necessarily believe that Nina punched him. I don't know that I buy that part of the story, but it was not from a cat. And if it was...
I
Nina
think we
punching
need to
him
talk about.
is way more reasonable.
Mhm.
Like
I think
that one is potential.
the story is unfolding. So I think the punch is true. I don't know if the person that punched him is true. I think like to be revealed. Like
Yep.
maybe the person that punched him is Nina's partner.
Yep. Or maybe she punched him thinking it was someone else. Like maybe he snuck up on her and yep. Or maybe he's making the whole thing up. I feel like Howard really wants to be on the podcast. He's like a drama queen kind of personality. Maybe he's just trying to like do things that will get him an in so he can get a little fame out of it.
Yeah, he definitely wants to be on the podcast.
Yeah. He even said like, "Are you recording? You can record me saying this."
Yeah.
Yeah, big moves from Howard this week. I think everything happens in threes. And he's already come through the door twice, I think, this season. So I think we're going to have one more big dramatic entrance from him at some point with another big, grand statement, perhaps more towards the finale. How many episodes are we getting? 10?
10,
I think.
So we've got a long way to go here. We're on episode 5?
This was 4.
This was 4. Jeez, we've got a long way to go for poor old Howard here. Who else would want to hurt Bunny? Anybody else?
I don't know. The Demuses continue to be sketch, but I don't know if they're directly related to Bunny.
Yep, that's true. That's true. So why don't we move on to evidence, right? Like this week we did see the knife block. We saw a whole moment with that happen. Anything else we want to add to our evidence board?
The secret door in Charles's bathroom that we didn't talk about.
Yes. Yeah, the secret tunnels of the Arconia, which honestly, I'm surprised we didn't piece that together with the big monologuing last week about the history of the Arconia and the secrets of the building. Like they showed us the creator of this building peeking into suites, and we did not pick up that could be a hint towards what could be happening in the building.
Yeah.
So I have questions now around like who else has access to the tunnels. Like they said there's like a maintenance elevator that goes through it. So who has access to the maintenance elevator?
Bunny has access to the maintenance elevator.
Yeah. Yep. Bunny has a secret elevator. There's the grate that divides Mabel and Bunny's apartments. There's the secret door in Charles's bathroom. There's the secret room in the Demus's apartment. And also, if I remember correctly from season 1, there's like a peephole in the Demus's apartment too. Yeah.
Yep.
In the secret room out to the main.
So
right, because that's how Theo. Yeah. Yep.
I feel like if there's more places, I want to see them now. I don't want to get to the finale of season 2 and be like, another secret room, and then that resolves a bunch of shit. Do you know what I mean? Feels like a cop-out to be like, there are secrets in the building. Like show them all to us now and then play it out really fantastically. That's my gripe about the secret passageway scenario. Do we think Lucy's coming back?
God, I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope that she draws a map of all the tunnels. Like, I hope that she does like a big board of like everything you need to know about the secret tunnel she's mapped out. Yep. All right. And our last category here, people who would benefit from the podcast getting canceled. I feel like we have a lot of fans of the podcast coming forward. But the people at Brazzers, right, with Charles, they want the podcast. They want it all gone, all done. But I feel like they're not really relevant to anything else.
They just want him to stay out of jail.
True.
I guess, I mean, the Demuses are back. Like, Teddy's whole thing was stop the podcast.
True, right? And we had a big moment this week with Teddy and Theo. Big scream fest in the apartment, and Theo saying like, "You've ruined my life." Sly, how do you feel about that? You had a reaction as soon as it was brought up.
My question is, they didn't caption what Theo was saying for most of that. How much did y'all get out of that? Because there were some devastating lines there.
Okay,
Not a lot.
Oh gosh, I didn't write them down. I would have to revisit the scene and like actually put it in English. But yeah, it was like him talking about his lawyer's advice and then saying like, I don't need your help, I need to get away from you. And just, oh gosh, that scene was just so emotional for me that like, I don't know, it was just so well done.
What did you think of the framing?
The framing was fine. I
thought it was great.
Yeah, it was good.
And I was watching for it. I watched it twice because I was like very curious if I had missed something. Now I have a little like running list in my head of what good framing looks like. Thank you for teaching us that.
Yeah. There was like a couple moments where it was like dialogue and it would like cut away to the like people perspective or whatever. But it made sense for the story. Like we're not supposed to get every single bit of detail of that conversation, right? So like no complaints. Framing was a-okay.
I really liked that they didn't caption the ASL because it like reversed it where you only got the information that you like needed.
You only got
the information that you could.
Interpretation of some of the information. Because some of the things he said, I went,
Yeah. They did do the classic 2-language conversation where the English speaker repeated what the other person said in English, but you're like, is that really what they said? You're just like reinterpreting and repeating.
But not exactly.
No. I liked it.
I want to use this moment to shout out if anyone's been watching the new season of The Boys on Amazon. In past seasons, the framing with ASL has not been great. But this season was very interesting to me. They have two characters that regularly like do the same dynamic of one talks back and one signs. But the other one also signs while he talks. But they had a bunch of scenes where like their faces were very close together, like in close proximity. And yet they still, when they would cut to her, who was primarily signing and not speaking, they had a wide shot. And then they would cut to him and it was just his face speaking back. And then they would cut back to her with the wide shot so you could see from, like waist up the entire expression. And I was like, someone grilled them and told them, you are never doing scenes again unless it's specifically like this, because it was so specific and it was in almost every episode. And I was like, okay.
More people are stalking our show.
I'm not going to say we had anything to do with The Boys, which is the biggest show from Amazon right now. But I will say I feel like someone had a conversation and it paid off because it was much more impressive to watch those conversations unfold the way they did. Anywho, The Boys is very good. It's a rant for another day. Also heavily problematic, but also another rant for another day.
I know JJ has strong feelings about The Boys.
JJ, let's talk about The Boys.
That plot continues to thicken. Okay. Anybody else who would benefit from the podcast getting canceled?
I feel like the podcast isn't really being centered the way it should be this season. Like, so much of the fun of season 1 was them developing the podcast together. And, like, I didn't feel like
and having, like, the intros and the outros being the podcast, I feel like the podcast has not really been an element in the episodes so far.
It was really a character in season 1, and it's not as much a character this season. And we got, like, the first episode, we got that big introduction of, like, Cindy Canning is out for them, and, like, haven't seen her since, so.
Haven't heard her podcast since the first one.
Yeah.
I also feel like they almost started to make a statement about influencer culture with, like, Charles got his role back, and they're bringing the show back, and Mabel got into the art collective. And I just, like, I also feel like some of that's gone down the drain. Like we saw Charles go and shoot on set, right? And like the big studios like worried you're gonna go to jail and all this stuff. But I'm like, it's not. Some pieces of what they did in this episode were so reflective of like internet culture and like TikTok and being a teen on the internet and all of these things. And then other pieces I was like, this does not make any sense. Like, this does not feel reflective of like what would happen if your podcast was actually this popular.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not sitting with me at the moment. I'll have to give it more thought as we head into next week.
I will say I've been tracking the songs at the end of every episode, and this is the first time they didn't caption what the outro song was. And so that gave me more questions than answers. But I did Shazam it, so it's fine.
We didn't talk about the final moment
we
of
did
the
talk
episode.
about
The Jan reveal.
She's back.
And the reveal
back.
that she's been calling Charles.
A lot.
Like a lot.
That was a lot of missed calls.
I'm a bit startled by that, actually, because I felt like at the end of season 1, her character was like, I was using you the whole time, haha. No?
I don't think so.
No? Was she kind of in love with him? I was maybe not.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I got she was using him vibes.
Okay.
She
We're
was,
split on that.
in love with the power it gave her.
Alexis, where do you think Jan's going in all of this? What do you see for her like coming into the next episode?
I don't know. I did find it really interesting that like there were big pieces of this episode that really reminded me almost verbatim of other media I had seen, and that was one of them. Like I was like, that is a trope we've used on a lot of other stuff, including Psych, almost beat for beat. Right, where you like they left the season before and you don't think they're coming back, and you know like the episode ends with him sitting down in front of her, and the same conversations were had then. Like, was she in love with him? Was she obsessed with him? Like we just thought she liked the power, blah blah blah. I mean, it was the same thing. So it also kind of had a vague, very vague Silence of the Lambs vibe. So I think I was too distracted by how lifted that felt from other things to really think about what it meant for her. Because I think this show has done a really good job commentating, especially in the first season, commentating on things or updating things. And this episode felt like there were some pretty direct lifts.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt that way with the knife too. Did you get any of that from the knife sequence?
I personally didn't, but the tunnels were almost identical to tunnels inside a house that no one knew about that was historical in Leverage. That a tiny woman also had to find. Like it was
right. Yeah. Like very convenient that they happened to like mention a small daughter in season 1 that they could like bring back to make the tunnel plot make sense. Yeah. Although I feel like it would have made sense for Mabel to have known that, since like in season 1 they did so much building about how much she knew about the building. Like how were they the Hardy Boys of the Arconia and they didn't know?
Exactly what I was about to say.
I found that to be very odd and almost a plot hole.
Yeah.
Like I liked Lucy,
right?
but like I would have rather Mabel have given us that information.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I liked that we got it from Lucy. I wish we got an offhanded comment from Mabel being like, oh yes, I also ran around in these tunnels growing up.
I forgot there was tunnels. Or even
I forgot, but like that be another like bonding moment between them, both growing up in the building, both finding secrets.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting, maybe, I don't know, that the seasons are very clearly like focused on a specific member of the crew. Like season 1 was very much from Mabel's perspective and people in Mabel's circle. This season is very much Charles. Like the evidence surrounds Charles. Lucy is now here. Like the like guest stars are surrounding Charles's life. So I think I thought that it was going to be all about Bunny at the beginning, but like it's becoming very clear, like in the way that Tim Kona was to Mabel, Bunny is to Charles, which is really interesting.
That's a really good way to frame it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we think we're going next with all of this? Jan's kind of back, kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like we have Mabel and the art people, the art community, kind of on the sideline somewhere. What's like where are we going with all this? Oh, we haven't even talked about one of my favorite world building details before we talk about what's next and we move on. Charles makes $200,000 a year from his one song being sampled by rap artists. Iconic. Yeah. I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
I think we talked about last week how the throwaway details of this show are incredible. Same with Miss Marvel. And that was a moment that I'm like, I'm very, very pleased to know this is how Charles has made his fortune.
Yeah. Now it's even funnier that he won't lend Oliver money.
Right? Yeah. So where are we going next? Where are we going next with all of this, people? We've got a lot. The bird wasn't in this episode. Like we've got a lot of loose ends.
We didn't go to Oliver's at all.
A couple new characters.
I updated the character
board.
Let me go down to the character board.
There are too many.
Oh my god.
We got Jared.
Thank you.
MMA fighter, right? And we got Lucy. Did we get anybody else?
No, that's it. I think we got another driver that's going to drive Lucy home. We have Lucy's mom and her new husband, unnamed.
Mm-hmm.
Charles said no detours 3 times, which leads me to believe that there will be a detour.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that how you pronounce that word?
What? How else do you pronounce it?
The very Canadian way, which is emphasis on detour, like detour. Take a detour, or I don't know what word you were saying, but that's not how I would have like emphasized those syllables.
It's the or versus tour.
Take a detour.
Just more
detour. No, detour or
detour.
Detour.
Detour. Detour.
Detour.
Like
great
content, y'all. I think I say it all of the ways. It like different ways.
That's the highlight video. Is Marissa and I like detour, tour.
Tour. No, you. Get rid of that you.
Detour. You in the word, Elizabeth.
I know, but that's not how I would pronounce it. Detour. Like,
but do you say route or route?
Route.
Mm-mm.
You say route? I'm gonna end this show. This is incredible. I've never met.
How are the two of you married?
I need the people in the comments to like chime in right now about who is right and who is wrong because I simply cannot stand. You really say route?
Yeah, I believe I have what is essentially an Ontario accent, and you have a Nova Scotia accent, and those are different.
I'll take that. That's good. Although I've never heard anyone say detour.
Sorry.
There we go. That was very Canadian of you. Okay. Only Murders will be back next week. I forgot to put on my sweater for that whole segment, but it was here with us in spirit. We had a big week in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well with the end of Miss Marvel. Hooray! Where are we starting with Miss Marvel, folks? Let's talk as I scroll through all of our notes with a toast. What are we toasting with this week, friends? I have a once iced, now lukewarm coffee.
I have a once hot, now room temp coffee.
Cute.
I have an empty mason jar with the remnants of like coffee grounds.
Okay. Alexis?
I have an empty fruit punch.
Okay.
We really have to budget our beverages better.
I have half a glass of water.
And
Excuse
I usually have 3 beverages, and tonight I was in such a rush I only grabbed one. So
Here's my first beverage. Here's my second beverage.
I have a second.
Here's my third beverage.
Mm-mm.
And then I kid you not, I have an entire side table filled with empty water bottles that I have not thrown out yet because it's been that kind of week. So, anywho, a toast, shall we? Alexis, you don't have a toast written down. Have you? Do you have one for this week?
well, certainly don't make me go first.
Okay, we will make you go first. I would like to toast. This is your spoiler warning for the finale of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. If you have not watched it, you're about to get spoiled. Actually, let's start with JJ. Toast to Marvel putting in a content warning at the beginning of an episode that depicts hard topics. And
I revoked this toast because you can't say this is a content warning and not specify what type of content you are warning about. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Did they call it I don't think they called it a content warning.
They just say this is imagery that might upset some viewers.
Yeah.
Which viewers? Who will be impacted? Like, you can't.
That's very fair.
Honestly,
Yeah.
the fanboys. That's who the content warning was for. Women
Well,
being strong.
Excuse me,
warning.
I was
definitely
also some viewers.
Okay, but to Alexis's point, you have to be like, you have to have your soul ripped out of your body to not have been emotional watching this episode.
It's true.
Alexis, you're very normal.
Yeah, this was a. Alexis is just like all the other girls.
Just like other girls.
Just like all the other girls.
Cheers to Alexis being just like all the other girls and
That's
revoking
me.
that toast. Cheers. I'm going to the corner of the screen, but it's being lost by how fantastic her powers are. But cheers. Cheers. Love that. Okay. I would like to propose a toast to the Sheik, who had many, many iconic moments this episode. One that shook me to my core of not only being on TikTok and making good TikToks, but knowing how to use the hot dog filter. I say cheers to that.
Cheers.
And then what did he say? He said, "I hope this is halal."
Yeah.
Is that what he
Yeah.
said?
God,
Beautiful.
it was so good. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, he might be one of my new favorite MCU characters. Like they need to bring him back in the Marvels.
Everything.
Yeah,
Put him in everything. I don't care.
Hell yeah.
everything. I'd like to see him in every property. All right, Marissa.
A toast to Nakia pulling up in Kamran's car and saying, "Get in, losers, we're getting shawarma."
Yeah.
I think that literally might be my favorite line ever spoken in the MCU. It is self-referential. It's like, it's so layered. It's self-referential, like within the MCU. It's like Gen Z, language. It's like just a pulp culture reference, regardless of the shawarma bit. It's also like finally a community that knows how to pronounce shawarma correctly.
Tea.
Uh-huh.
Cheers.
I loved
Cheers.
it so much.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Marissa, come to the corner of the screen so we can get someone get a screenshot of all of us actually doing the cheers properly. There it is. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. Sly.
I propose a toast to breaking into the school, breaking into the theater, just to get good lighting to film your TikToks.
Absolutely iconic behavior from Zoe. Mm-hmm. Did anyone else feel seen in that moment?
Oh, yeah.
I felt
broke into the high
concerned
school
for her.
theater on the daily.
Live and breathe
I
in the
felt
high school
concerned for
theater.
her because people used to break into our high school all the time and they got in a lot of trouble.
So maybe it depends on context then, or cultural context. And for me, I was like, oh yeah, you go, Zoe. People found me in the theater on a Saturday, they'd be like, oh, hey, Liz. How you doing?
No.
Alexis, is there anything you'd like to toast to?
I would also like to toast to Zoe And I want to toast to Zoe for the line that I thought was really clever and really foreshadowy. I think she should be able to tell the world when she's ready.
Yes.
That's perfect. That's a perfect toast. Ooh, yes. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Zoe, I think.
Sleeper hit.
Thank you. The words out of my mouth. Yep. But this episode is not about Zoe. Let's center our time and energy around Miss Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. This was her moment. And we will get there and we will celebrate her. But this wouldn't be us if we did not complain a little bit about some of the things that made us question Marvel specifically. This is a great time to plug. If you want to know a great theory behind why the Marvel shows have been the way they are, you can check out Mac on TikTok, who made a literal timeline of filming that explains quite a bit. But that's a video for another time. Let's talk about our WTF moments of the week. Marissa?
I felt like I had to continue the theme. It's Kamran. It's still Kamran. Like my notes this whole episode was like, Kamran, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Nope, I take it all back. Well, maybe not. Like I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about him. Am I supposed to like him? Am I supposed to like Kamala with him? Am I supposed to like be happy that he got away? I'm so conflicted about this boy. Why?
Did you call him an anti-hero? I don't even know how like the
I don't know how to
serves.
qualify him. I don't think
Alexis,
think he
what would you qualify him as based in the comics world?
Well, he's just so different. That's the problem. Because I think in the comics, he has intentions that are far more like directly villainous than we have seen here. Like this is more like lost little boy who cannot find his way and is doing a bumpy job at discovering his way. Well, I thought was
embarrassing himself in front of his crush.
Yes. Yeah. What I thought, one of the things that stood out to me as interesting was there was this moment where I was like, oh, they're going to make you a villain. And I don't think they've earned that. Mm-hmm. Like in your story, like the way his story has been told, I don't think that was earned because we've seen him be very like flippant and relaxed about things. Like he did see his mom leave. Like he didn't seem to have those same issues then, right? Mm-hmm. And then they kind of walked back from that. And I wonder if that's why his story is what it is. I wonder if they too were like, we don't quite know how to classify you. So we're just going to like throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And like none of it is sticking. So here we are.
Yeah.
He's still a big question mark for me.
Sly, what was your WTF moment of the week?
My WTF moment of the week was Agent Deaver not knowing a pretty iconic Abraham Lincoln quote.
I have a follow-up. I'd like to propose to you, Sly. Is Agent Deaver a Skrull?
I
think that dismisses too much of her villainy.
No, I fully agree. I mean, because one of the only pieces of context we get in Captain Marvel for how to identify a Skrull is like they miss context clues. And to me, I was like, even I knew that was an Abraham Lincoln quote. So like, you must be from another planet if you can't tie that together. And then I had the moment on the couch where I was like, wait, what if that's the point? I think I just read too much into it.
I think the point was that she was just being Islamophobic.
Yeah.
But I see how you got there.
See how I went straight to conspiracy world though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair to the portrayal of Skrulls we've been given in the MCU so far. She just sucks.
She does suck. And the violence that she displayed and lack of judgment was horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. My WTF moment of the week, on a very lighter note, was the iconic hat moment, right? With Bruno and Kamran and Halal and the Haram hats. But they were in the Ray Dunn font.
Right?
If you know anything, thank you,
Right?
Alexis. Thank you. I said this in the pre-show and got no reaction because you hadn't logged in yet.
I know what it means.
No, I literally had the thought this week, and then I will not derail you, Liz, that, you have been sharing no-name brand content with us. And there was a moment where I was trying to explain it to somebody this week, and I was like, it's almost like Canadians like Ray Dunn. Like, it's like this, like where you just label what the thing is and act like it's like,
no,
novel.
It's quite literally the Canadian version of Ray Dunn, except we actually respect no-name brands. They also give us low-priced, high-quality goods.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah,
We
so
had a great conversation about No Name on Pip this week.
I
So check
have
out
to go watch.
the replay on Twitch if it's still up.
I used to have a no-name shirt. I'm gonna have to see if I still have it. It got holes in it, so I might have thrown it away when we moved. But they did last summer. They did a line of clothing, and like a swag. And an influencer friend gave me one of the shirts. It was like bright yellow. It was super iconic. Okay, sorry, I just got a text message with a ton of tea that has no business being on the show, and now I have to live with that for the rest of this episode. Nothing anyone here needs to be concerned about. Yeah, the Ray Dunn font really threw me for a loop. I don't know if that was also meant to be a play on like consumerism. I think it was just probably a poor font choice by someone in costuming. But it really like threw me for a loop. The thought of like the Sheik going to Home Goods and like finding these hats and like bringing them to the mosque and then like leaving them in the room they were in. Sets up a whole line of thinking that I'd like some answers to. Alexis.
Okay. I feel like this is going to offend you, Liz, because I know this is a property that you have consumed, or at least I think it has. I do not understand the hold the Bake Off, Great British Bake Off has on media. I don't get it. I've never, I watched one episode and I didn't quite get it, but it's so funny to me because I feel like it has shown up in a lot of the media that I consume lately, and it has definitely shown up in a lot of the fan fiction I have consumed lately, right? There is a really good fic I love where there is a ongoing commentary about a British Bake Off like show and who should have been able to stay and who should have been booted, and it's this whole thing, right? LAFG updates, man. And so when that line was said, I was like, God, what is with the because I had earlier, in the show they said it, and I was like, oh, again with the Great British Bake Off, and then that is the line that he is like, I don't really care what you were doing with my sister in that coffee shop, but do you even watch the Great British Bake Off?
I also
LAFG updates, man. The whole
shout out to the fic is called Everything's Coming Up Millhouse, but it's for the audience for future reference.
LAFG updates, man.
I'm so upset that you don't understand the Great British Bake Off, but you're also a person that doesn't like comedy television, so I just have to accept that is a part of us that is just fundamentally different.
I really love the idea of the clandestines. Is that what the name of the family is? Mm-hmm. Right? And they've lived through all of time, basically, is what we're kind of told. They've been around humanity, right? And I love the idea of humanity evolving to such a point and them having watched this evolution of humanity, and then the whole family getting fixated on the Great British Bake Off as that's what they rally around, or that's when they're like, oh, I guess we're still waiting around to find the bangle. Let's watch another episode. I just want to know how it sits within their family core and culture and how it compares to their hundreds of other years without that kind of entertainment on Earth. Maybe they had baking competitions back in another time pre-television. They're like, look, let's pitch it to a network. I don't know. I feel like there's a whole thing there in my mind. Anywho, any other WTF moments we want to call out before we start unpacking what this series was?
We did it.
Sly?
There are a lot of things that happened. I don't know if I would call any of. I know exactly what my other WTF moment was. It was the Avengers homage shot with the 360 camera shot. It went on too long.
I had the same
It
thought.
like
But so
I
did the one
saw
in
it.
the Avengers.
And I was like, yeah, but like even that one, it was like long and to the point where it was comedic. But this one was long to the point where it was comedic, and then it kept going. And I was just like, I see what you're doing, but just a touch too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, let's like dig into what this episode was, what it means to this community, and let's start with the celebration of Miss Marvel herself. Yay! What? I have some hot takes, but like I want to start by saying I think this was probably one of the most like of the TV projects we've gotten from Marvel. I'm ranking this extremely high on my list. It was such a good project. It had so much heart. It was so grounded. It gave so much to the fans. It gave so much to the communities that felt represented in the show. It like was feel good to watch without it being too whimsical or too fantastical or too high schooly. And I think that honestly, and this is where my hot take comes in, this origin story rivals any Spider-Man property. And I think the fanboys will hate that, but truly, if you're looking at the teenage origin story, like it did this in a way that with a lot more heart and a lot more added to the character that the Spider-Man trope has never been given. I think it's pretty remarkable what they were able to do in 6 episodes that Spider-Man has never done justice. And I love Spider-Man. I'm a Spider-Man girly, and that's my take on it. It was beautiful.
Yeah. I love how she came to have her super suit and she came to have her name. In like how it came from family and it came from her parents and it came from her parents trusting her and loving her, and like her getting her suit and her super name were like acts of love. And I just thought that was like really beautiful and exciting to see, because I also like it was cool to see someone like pick a superhero name, because we like never see that in the MCU. It's like I feel like we don't know why like half of the characters in the MCU are even called what they are, other than like that's what they're called in the comics. So like nobody's gonna call them their regular name. Like
Absolutely. Or it's like prescribed to them, like Spider-Man is like called Spider-Man, so then he is the Spider-Man. Yeah. I'm gonna make a lot of Spider-Man analogies and connections in this. That's where my head's been going this entire time since I watched the episode. There's so many connections that I think like I keep going back and forth on. One of the big ones for me, just to take over the mic for 1 minute before I pass it off to Alexis and Sly, one of the big ones for me was as I was watching that moment in the high school where everyone kind of came back and they were listening to her plan, and like they were also supportive of her and they were just present with her in that moment. It took me to like 2 different moments in 2 different Spider-Man franchises. One in No Way Home with MJ and Ned and how devoted they were to Peter in that whole movie and coming to his aid and like being like, we'll stand with you. And I thought that was interesting because there was moments of Tom Holland's first 2 Spider-Mans where I didn't buy the friendship necessarily. I didn't like the way they were scripting Ned. I didn't like the way they were like fluffing up those relationships and moving them at the speed they were moving them at. In contrast, in Tobey's Spider-Man with Harry, you totally buy that friendship and you totally buy the stakes of that Harry and that Peter and who they are to each other and what would happen if they didn't have each other. And it was so cool to see another superhero with a community and people feeding love into them and the stakes of that love that were not just other superheroes, right? There's something about Steve and Bucky where it's like, well, they're both super soldiers. So like, I'm not super, like I'm concerned about Bucky always, but I'm not really fully concerned about either of them a lot of the time because like, they're just not human. Like they're, but it was cool to see a moment where like she is a person like first and a superhero second. I thought that was had like some meaning and like some grit to it that I was waiting for.
Yeah, you rarely see like anymore, at least, like regular people step up to help. It's always like the other what is the word? Oh no, enhanced. The other enhanced people. Or like specially trained, like, you know, Sharon showing up at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Someone that's a little bit not realistic because they're like super trained in hand-to-hand combat. And like for instance on this show, there's no one here that I would trust to defend my honor in a street fight. There's like not one person here that could relate to that story.
No,
I'm like
it's just her family.
I'm trying to make a joke about how Alexis is like our person that absolutely could kick ass if we needed them to. But that's not
I thought you meant this show,
people.
like Ms. Marvel.
No, I meant like this show. Like we are the only specific show that could understand.
I get it. Okay.
So I got me. Like we are a very specific exception to that rule because we have Alexis, but most people don't have someone that could kick ass in a street fight on their behalf.
Yes.
Yeah. With that, Alexis, what do you think about what this means and the series wrapping?
It's so exciting. I mean, it's one of those series that I felt like has been really solid the whole way through, been really impactful the whole way through. One of the things that I think really stood out to me in this episode, again, was the way that they haven't really lost any of their commentary throughout the show, right? And they've layered it in ways that are really subtle and like really meaningful. There was a line in this episode about like, well, places of worship are supposed to be sanctuaries, right? And like it was immediately picked up with like, but this is a mosque in America. Like you could not, be in a place that they would find more than this place. So I think the fact that they kind of kept that commentary up all the way through was really neat. But my favorite part of this episode was almost ending with the shot of her sitting on the street lamp, which was just like this moment of like, now that is a comic panel that I wanted to see, a comic cover that I wanted to see imitated. And I think that was really, cool and really special. So.
I did have some like logistical questions of like how comfortable that seat would have been for her. Like I respect it from the aesthetic angle, but I was watching her sit and I was like, that can't be comfy for you. Like the wind coming at you from the water. She was like gripping the sides of it. I was like, there must be another peak, a tree branch, perhaps. But that was my only commentary on that. Was like, I hope this seat's comfortable.
I just think it's such a cool, like I agree. Like maybe there are more high things that are comfortable. But I think it's extremely rare that we see a woman, especially a woman of color, look out over her city and like the city that she is protecting, right? And to go off of your Spider-Man commentary, like one of the big criticisms of those films, the recent Spider-Man films, has been that he is not really a hero of his city because he is so tied to Tony and the Avengers. Like we have kind of lost the core of that connection. And forever ago on TikTok, somebody had asked me like, what was a like Steve Rogers plot line that you would have liked to see in the MCU? And I was like, well, it would have been really nice to see his connection to his city as well, because they kind of layer that in and then we just kind of like lose that, right? So to see somebody who is really connected to their city and their community was like a huge check. And for it to be a woman of color, which we never, ever get to see, I think was another big bonus on that moment, as uncomfortable as sitting on top of a street lamp maybe. I mean, I would try it. I like being up high. I'd be like, I'll risk it. We'll figure it out when we get up there. But
I know this is not where the comic reference comes from, obviously, but it is kind of cool to think about her powers being light and her like coming from light and sitting on a light. I just think that's fun.
I think that's a perfect analogy for all of this. I wish she had like reached her hand over the water or something, like and like grabbed an ice cream cone or something. Like I feel like that would have been a fun touch, but I digress. So how do you feel about where all this is leading?
I feel so good about the show, which is so exciting, right? we've talked so much about structure and how the structure doesn't work. This show really, had all of those complaints that we had about it feeling like it was just a really long project. There was no episodic arcs, right? I feel like this is the one exception to that, right? Each episode has its own story, and it doesn't feel like any episode was wasted. And so that was really nice. With this being her like big moment, coming of age moment, right? There's such talk around like getting the costume, right? And we've talked about how it's been building every episode, but comparing to the other origin story television Disney Plus shows we've seen and how they handled the first getting the costume moment, I think this was the most impactful, the only one that felt like it actually had weight. I also just love this as a story about her character because she's just so intelligent, and they use her intelligence and they're not trying to like reduce her or the people around her, right? The plan, the like mid-episode school plan was like brilliant, and I was just like so excited for them to have like an actually thought out, like methodical way to approach situations. It was just so intelligent, and that's not something we usually see in the like big smashy fight moments. So just everything about the show I feel like was encapsulated in this final episode in such a beautiful way.
And I did appreciate like all the callbacks, right? That like chalkboard sequence made to like moments we had seen throughout the series, and like it really felt like unlike other shows, and I think we commented on this most specifically with Hawkeye, where you could see like Easter eggs that were planted and then later on never picked up again, and then perhaps replaced by something else that got shoved in to like serve plot. Like this is a show that knew what it was setting up and then knew how to tie it together at the end, and that wasn't really interrupted in its entire flow. And I'm also very happy for it that it had that independence and it wasn't really shattered with any other illusions or any other stories until the post-credit scene. So maybe we talk about the post-credit scene next. Spoilers, again, I don't, if you're still listening and you're not looking for spoilers, I don't know what you're doing.
Say, right before we jump into that, the moment of her getting her name, right? Talking to her dad, being so powerful, and her being like, oh my gosh, I share a name with like this person she like venerates, was just like such a pure like moment. Like I'm sure like every one of us who have had like people who are real that we like venerate or whatever, when you find that like weird like little connection thing that ties you to this person you already care and like venerate so much, it's just like such a like exciting feeling. And that moment was just so cute and so pure. And then it leads us right into our post-credit scene
where you see the bangle light up and then Kamala shoots through the door and Carol Danvers walks back and has this moment where she sees her own face plastered all over Kamala's room. And if you don't know, Harry Styles just did a bit with James Corden when the album dropped where they filmed a Daylight music video inside the house of fans. And someone had like the One Direction perfume, and they had like, I forget, like a couple different like Harry things like in her room. And James was like, if Harry sees this, he's going to freak out. Like, take it all down. And I felt like, yeah, like that's too real, because that is the reality of what that moment would feel like. You'd be like, oh my God, this is a shrine to me in a room. What the heck? So I felt very like, what a good way to call back her fandom in all of this. And like what we saw in episode 1, where she was like making the little like stop motion videos for YouTube that got like 5 viewers and stuff. I felt like this post-credit scene was like obvious. Like I feel like we knew Carol Danvers was coming into the mix, but I was surprised that this is how they introduced her. I'm curious, Alexis, if there's any specific like comic callbacks or things that come to mind for you when you watch this scene, or if is it completely out of left field?
I mean, I expected it. I don't know that there's like a specific panel I would reference, but Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel is not really my area of expertise. I'm going to be real honest with you.
Very valid.
Well, I will say, as a person who read the first collection of Ms. Marvel on Marvel Unlimited,
not that she's bragging.
No, I'm not bragging at all. I think the issues that they curated for this collection on Marvel Unlimited were very intentional, because throughout watching the show, I could reference things from the comics that were specifically from those particular comics. And the last issues in the collection take place in a school, and then Carol shows up at the very end to recruit Kamala, which like isn't exactly what happens in this episode, but it is like essentially the same beats. So that was exciting for me to be like, I thought that was going to happen, and then it happened, and that was fun. Also, can I just say, Carol looks so good. Like,
how do you rate
hair?
the wig?
She hasn't looked this good since her movie.
Really good, yeah.
She looks so good.
You appreciated the hair?
Absolutely. I love that style. It's
Yeah.
I
think
haven't
we need
talked
to
about
center you
Motherland
here.
for
Yeah, we need to center you in
Salem.
this because you are our Captain Marvel fan first and foremost. You're a Jane Austen fan, but you are our in-house Captain Marvel.
This is very much Sly's moment.
the Slice
Yes.
moment, please.
Yeah, Captain Marvel's my favorite movie. It was, and then Eternals happened, and nothing can top Eternals. So Eternals is my number one, but Captain Marvel was my number one. Because I watched so chaotically. I've referenced how I watched Marvel. You can find it. But yeah, like Captain Marvel was like the second like serious thing I set down, because I watched timeline order.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched first Avenger and then Captain Marvel, and just everything about that movie I fell in love with. So yes, it was so great to see Carol come back, right? I definitely thought she was coming back in a recruity way and not inhabiting the body. That's weird. We'll see what's up with that. I don't know how we feel about that. But it ties into interesting, the comic commentary of Kamala like making herself look like blonde and white or whatever.
This is
Marissa,
an interesting point. Are you done?
You have your finger up, so I'm passing it to you.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting point, because yes, in the comics, Kamala like shapeshifts into Carol, or like transformed into Carol, or whatever. But I don't think that's what happened here. I think they swapped places.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but it's an interesting, like, it's not a parallel. It's more of a perpendicular moment, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's conceptually similar, but in a very different fashion.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that like I want that power, because if all 4 of us could wear a bangle, that would like then transport us immediately to the presence of the other. I feel like our lives would be so much easier.
But
No?
I don't think that's what would happen. I think
No, but
if
now
you and
I'm
I had it, we
envisioning-
would switch places.
Now I'm envisioning. Well, then that would also be great, because I could like just like screw you over and go to Disney on your dime. So like that's fine. I could like go thrift shopping in Alexis's town and then take my findings back with me. Sly could come to Canada
go to
whenever
Nova
they
Scotia
want.
whenever they want.
We could like flip, and you could record live with Fee for Pip, and then like I could just enjoy the States for a bit. It'd be great. See, lots of use for this. Okay. I'm manifesting that for us. So lots to discover with like what they're going to do with that and how it's going to connect to the Marvels movie. But next, I think we wanted to talk about Community and like how Community was such a big part of this. And the family aspect was really big here as well. Marissa, I think you wanted to open on this.
I talked about it a little bit, but the cons are my favorite family in the MCU. And the one of the moments that like really got me in this episode was Mrs. Khan saying, "But we trust her, right?" When in episode 1 she was like, "No, I don't trust her." Like, the evolution of that relationship was really beautiful to see, and the way Amr showed up to support, and the way everybody else showed up to support in the end, and just like, I made a video about this, and like people were in my comments like, "Well, what about the Wilsons? They're trying. They're not the cons. What about the Bartons?" There's no other MCU family.
I need to go back and rewatch all of our faces when you said the Bartons. I feel like we all took that a very different direction.
There were so many people in my comments that were like, number 1, cons, number 2, Wilsons, number 3, the Bartons. I'm like, the Bartons are not a functional family. But
we did a whole segment unpacking why the families of the MCU are problematic.
Yes.
But
the cons are number 1. And yeah. I just, everyone who said the cons were bad parents after episode 1, I just want to fight them. And now I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was really happy with everyone in the family kind of getting a moment this episode. Like, they really scripted in, like, the brother had a moment. The dad had multiple moments. I felt the mom really had some, well, she had great moments last week as well, but, like, she had more kind of tie it up with a nice bow moments. I felt like they really did a great job making sure that no character missed their beat and no character had a beat that could get cut out from the plot either. Like, I didn't feel like anyone was left on the cutting room floor. And that was also kind of beautiful. It was so significant. It all made that final sequence. And it was really cool to see the brother have fun. Like, I don't know why that, like, spoke to me so much, but him, like, getting to be a part of it and, like, also getting to, like, be part of the crew after being so stressed about money and the wedding and all these other things he's been worried about for every episode. I'm like, good for him. He deserved to have a good time for a few minutes. I also want to talk about, I had bromance, and I see someone just updated.
I disagree vehemently.
Bruno
with your note
and Kamran. Bromance of the century. Sly, romance of the century? Are you...
I ship it. Hardcore. You also wrote that in your notes.
I did, but I wasn't sure to what capacity. That was like at the beginning of the episode.
You can platonically ship.
I also feel like Kamran just gives off a certain, like, that actor just gives off a certain energy, because when he walked into the restaurant at the end to, like, meet up with the red jacket, I also had this moment of like, wow. Is this also enemies to lovers?
Like, inherently flirtatious.
Yeah. The amount of side fanfics that are about to start just based on physicality that was not meant to happen. I'd like to be linked to all of it.
Bruno and Kamran specifically is they had that moment at the beginning where I was like, I ship them. And then there was the moment where Bruno cockblocks Kamala and Kamran. And Bruno, the way it was cut, felt like it was looking at Kamran and not at Kamala.
Yeah.
So,
and the way that he was like sorry, go ahead.
Went to, like, almost apologize, but not. I was like, I'm not sure what you're apologizing for. I'm not sure if you're apologizing for kissing her or for kissing her. Like, I don't know which way that's going for you.
And then he says thanks and, like, kind of put his hand on Bruno's shoulder.
Yeah.
And then Bruno immediately went and, like, sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't just make a distraction. He fully allowed himself to, like, get caught. And I was like, I feel like you only do that when, like, you've admitted defeat. Like, I feel like you've only done that when you're, you know, trying to save the person you love. And Kamala was not the one that stuck around to say thanks. It was not.
Mm-mm.
It was not her.
One of us is getting ready to dig through the mud with his bare hands, and one of us is not. Like Kamala is not that person, is all I'm saying.
Okay, so we have to bring up the next spark that was lit this episode with Zoe and Nakia and whatever the vibe is there. I don't know. Marissa?
I think we all in our notes, in some way, shape, or form, wrote, is Zoe about to come out?
I did not write that. I did write Nakia and Zoe favorite duo.
Okay.
They also had like a enemies to friends arc.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Because
like,
like
enemies
Zoe
to friends
threw a
to TikTok
dodgeball at
platform.
Kamala in the first episode, and Nakia like cursed her out, and now they're besties, and I love it.
Again, fanfic, I feel like, is about to spawn across the universe regarding those two.
I'd like to clarify that this is a platonic relationship in my eyes, but Zoe was about to come out.
I'm still stuck on Zoe and Kamala. I can't. That's the only person I really see with Zoe so far from the show.
I really appreciate how like they used Zoe being an influencer as like the advantage, because I have a lot of questions. Like I really liked it, but then I was like,
the TikTok
She
algorithm
has
does not
to-
work that quickly.
no, and she has to have such a specific audience for that. Like if I was to go on my TikTok and make a call like that, like nobody here follows me. Like one person might show up. So like she must be a local celeb. Like she must be the celebrity of the city.
I mean, they already really established that with like the whole high school knows her account, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's valid.
And
But like she had 100,000.
I feel like when you
No,
get
she hit
to,
1 million after AvengerCon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like when you get to a certain level of popularity, then everybody around you like buys in because they don't want to be left out of the popularity that you've. I don't know. I thought
Right.
it kind of went back to what you had said earlier, Liz, about the way that they like layered in things that they picked up through the last episode, right? Because I think that is a trope or a plot device that other shows have tried to use. Like so-and-so is an influencer and this is how their influence like positively or negatively impacts their work. And I have not liked it until they did it on this show, because I felt like it was also this choice to like, we talk a lot about like, well, you know, so-and-so Avenger is a great strategist, and it's all lies because we actually never see any of that strategy. And to me, this was great because they really did play to each person's strengths, and Zoe's strength was like the community that she influences. So I thought it was really smart in that.
I love
Yeah.
that.
They didn't just use it as a status symbol. They also use it as like a community building tool, which you rarely see.
I also feel like the fact that they, however they got the license to use TikTok and like show that, like that was not an edited, scrolly, random, faceless social media
They
platform.
took
That
the
was
legitimate UI from TikTok,
and
like,
with
every
YouTube
single
in the first episode, but like that added so much to it versus like compared directly to Only Murders, and they're talking about like other parts of social media that don't actually exist. Like Lucy references the Days 100. I uploaded you to the Days 100 and like these other things that like aren't real. That's not real. That's not a real thing. Like, and I feel like other shows have also done that where they try and talk about like ambiguous social media platform. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, but actually seeing what you're saying, Sly, like the real UI of TikTok, that's like, oh, actually grounds it.
Just need to fact check you. The Dazed 100 is a thing that exists, apparently.
What is it?
Yeah.
It's hold on. 2021's Dazed 100 is a global celebration of the next trend names leading change in their communities and across their fields, curated with a little help from Dazed 100ers of years gone by. So basically, people who get nominated for this then choose the next year's group of
Oh
people.
shit, that's
Apparently
cool.
this is a thing.
Okay, I take it back. Good for her. Great. But I do think the point still stands that there are other shows that have used like fake social media like as like
I mean,
a random buy-in.
The point stands like even within Only Murders. Only Murders is like a parallel universe, whereas Ms. Marvel, in a weird, twisty way, feels very much of this world of right now.
Yep. So there's also some things this episode that were like some interesting choices that were made. One being some pieces of this protest that Zoe brings to the high school to try and help their cause, help their case, and how the protest was responded to. Sly, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Yeah. So they pulled a lot of imagery within the malicious response to this protest directly from imagery that we saw from the multiple protests across 2020. And one of the moments that hit me a little too hard was the technology that they were using that looked like the LRAD, which stands for long-range acoustic device, which was a big thing during the protests in Seattle specifically. I remember people talking about being exposed to this and how it affected them and how the system was utilized. And it's devastating, right? And so to see a very similar thing be used in that scene was very impactful, but it was a lot emotionally.
Yeah, that whole sequence had a lot of moments that were like a little bit far. And there's a lot to be debated around whether those choices stand, whether they're modern choices, whether they should have been included at all. Like, I think that like the ending sequence where they finally call off the team and you hear that phone call and like everyone's celebrating and like there's just like a lot that happens in a very short amount of time that I think is fascinating to unpack. I also feel like there's a lot of people that are currently unpacking all of this and the impact on communities and the communities represented in the show, the communities that are represented by that imagery being brought forth that like we are not part of and we shouldn't center ourselves in or pretend to center ourselves in this either. Here are some of the creators we've been loving who've been doing tons of commentary across the Ms. Marvel series that you can go check out, who are commenting on everything regarding this show and sharing their takeaways. Please screenshot now and go check them out and read what they've been posting over the past few days. Anything else we want to say on that? And anyone else we want to plug while we're calling this out?
There will be an extra credits episode of MC University for Ms. Marvel, which Mario sat down with Harv, one of our other co-hosts, and they talked about the show, and I'm very excited to see their commentary on that. So it's another piece of, if you want another perspective, you can go check out.
Now, there's one other piece of the greater MCU, speaking of like MC University and all the other Marvel properties, that we got a little bit of a call to in this episode. A little bit controversial. And Alexis, I want to throw it to you since I asked you this on the pre-show. This X-Men situation and the idea of fan service. Do you want to fill everyone in on your thoughts on this?
I guess my thoughts are controversial. I wasn't really aware that they were, but I am now getting that vibe. I think what was so interesting, in this episode, like there's been a lot of commentary before Ms. Marvel came out about like the change of her powers and where that puts her status. Is she still an Inhuman? Is she not? Like, since Marvel already hadn't failed Inhumans property, like, do we want to bring that back to the table? Like, what's going on with that? And there were kind of 2 points of controversy there, right? One was like, but Inhumans, and one was like, but pretty powers, right? And like impact on community. And I think what was so interesting in this episode is that like they kind of made short work of both of those, right? Like they were like embiggening, like here is the answer to this controversy about her, you know, pretty powers, right?
Mhm.
And then shortly after they were like, they have her say, you know, well, it would just be another label. Like if you found out what I was, it would just be another label. And to me, that was Marvel like trying to say like this debate that this community is having about like X-Men and Inhumans and what are mutants going to be in this universe, and is it just a mutation, or is it, you know, does it come from exposure to whatever, like blah, 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 blah. The amount of theories I have seen going like 60 different directions on how mutants not are going to be introduced, but like what their makeup is going to be right in the MCU. I felt like this was a way of Marvel to be like, it's just a label. Like, it's just a label that we use, like move past it. Stop centering this conversation around like what that is going to mean until we tell you what that's going to mean. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, you know, kind of like layered line to end on. Like it would just be.
And it's very interesting that they saved it until the very end of the episode, I thought. Like it was like almost like a, not intentionally maybe a throwaway, maybe perhaps they meant it as a setup to the Marvels, but it to me it was like,
it kind of gave them an out if they didn't want to include it. Like that moment didn't have to happen. But I agree with Alexis, and I think that is controversial to say, but like I don't care. I like Kamala Khan. I like Kamala Khan in the MCU, and whatever her powers mean going forward is cool. Like I don't care.
And I was almost a little bit off-putting of a line to me, because I feel like the way that she is labeled and the way that she identifies herself, that those things have really been impactful in this series, right? Like the labels that we put on her have really defined this series in a positive way, right? The fact that she is a Muslim woman of color that is like, you know, doing these things as a superhero, like those are really game-changing labels in this type of media. And so to be like, oh, it would just be another label as like a throw off, I felt was like a weird, like unless that line was intended to have some other message, it was kind of an off-putting statement to have at the end of the show. Like I don't feel like it was set up in a way to be empowering to her because of the empowering role those labels have played throughout the series.
I think like there is a way to consider it as like a multi-hyphenate person of like a, you know, Pakistani Muslim woman teenager with superpowers who also is a mutant. Like it's just another hyphen to add, and like you could think of the line in that perspective. But I like the way you think about it of like, shut up, stop having this conversation, we're moving on.
So on that note, is there anything else we want to talk about with Miss Marvel before we enter our last segment of the show? I say thank you to Miss Marvel. Maybe one last toast to you, to all the people behind the scenes who advocated for this show and was able to make it the way they wanted to make it, with the heart and soul and contextual lived experience that informed how much goodness came through our screens. To you for making this happen. Cheers. And to our new baddie, Kamala Khan, who's going to take on the fanboys and squash them. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, in our last few minutes, I want to switch the tone, and we did not prep this segment, but I do just want to take our last 5 minutes and talk about the Emmys once again. Because Marvel, every property by Marvel that was eligible to be nominated for an Emmy was nominated for an Emmy. To a total of 19 nominations for Marvel across 4 series.
Might I just say, WandaVision beat them as a single show.
It's true.
Just saying.
And you're right to say it. Let's walk through the number of nominations each show got, and then I would love to hear our opinions on this, of which I got absolutely ratioed by TikTok this week about one of my hot takes about this, and that's fine, because that's why I have this show to yell about it on. Firstly, Moon Knight, 8 nominations. Loki received 6. Hawkeye received 2. No acting nominations. But What If received 3 nominations, including a posthumous nomination for Chadwick Boseman and his vocal performance in his episode. Last year, they did make a history-making nomination sweep, in credit to shows like WandaVision. But these are 4 very interesting properties to receive nominations, and I feel like Moon Knight very much was, to start with Moon Knight since they received the most, was very much awards bait for Marvel. Right, the casting of Oscar Isaac, the centering of Oscar Isaac, telling an intense story with adult themes and getting away from the juvenile storytelling, which is not necessarily bad, and some might argue is the heart of what Marvel is. How do we feel about Moon Knight sweeping 8 nominations, all in technical categories, besties?
I'm fine with it. Some of them I agree with more than others, but there's nothing that I'm like, why? You know, they have, like, this is the thing about the Emmys, is if you have the money to campaign, you have a much stronger chance of a nomination. And Marvel has nothing but money. And so if they have the time and the money to campaign, they're going to get a nomination, regardless of if it's necessarily the most deserving project. Because there are plenty of good, strong pieces of television that just don't have the investment placed in them from their networks that just, like, slip away, that fall away. So, like, it makes sense. It's fine. Whatever.
I can't even pretend to entertain a conversation about any Marvel property that's not What If, because it's occupied about 90% of my free available brain cells this week. I am not surprised that Chadwick Boseman got his nomination, because when Alexis and I were doing our commentary, we said his performance was spectacular in that episode. So take that and just put it on a shelf to the side and know that that piece is there. What if we never nominated What If for the Emmys? What if we finally realized that that show is so inherently misogynistic, so incredibly problematic?
But also, they were nominated for Outstanding Animated Program, and we should have a conversation about the quality of animation in some of those episodes.
The hair alone.
The hair alone.
Hair. The way all the female characters moved.
The fact that the episode that was nominated for Outstanding Animated Program is episode 4, which I physically could not bring myself to talk about on the internet because it upset me so much. That is the episode. Like, I understand that is probably the most, like, artistically impressive from an animation standpoint, but the story of that episode, you're gonna stand behind that? Oh, it makes me so upset.
I completely agree with you. And I think back to what I think is one of the most infamous moments in this show's history, which was the pre-show that Alexis and I had doing the Doctor Strange episode, where we just had to decide how far are we going with this? Do you remember that?
Yeah. We were both trying to, like, feel each other out still too. Like, where are we at with, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was 4 episodes into Alexis and I, and that was truly the moment that we just, like, held hands and said, we're if we go down, we're going down together.
Yeah, if you count down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember it being funny because I have a different take on Doctor Strange in general than you do.
Yes.
But like in that, it didn't matter when it came to that episode.
My God, I have such a problem with rewarding scripting that is so flippant and dismissive of, even in a world where everything is possible, whatever like that setup for the show was. And we've talked about how badly we think that freedom was explored in the series, but how even in that context they decided to walk back on any progress they had made in how they display the stories of diverse people, and specifically the stories of gender diverse people and women. It was so disappointing to see that in a universe, in a multiverse where anything is possible, we're zeroing in on the timelines where this is how we treat women. And the Captain Carter episode does not stand. Let's also just point that out again. Like, you can rewatch the What If After Parties if you want to hear our takes on that. We were really throwing it down. I feel like I want to roast What If for my birthday. That will be my birthday gift to me. I don't know how I'm going to survive season 2 of that show, but we'll do it with all of you. Hawkeye did receive 2 nominations, though. Sly, how are you feeling about Hawkeye's 2 nominations? I can let you know what they're for if you'd like.
Yeah.
Outstanding stunt coordination for a comedy series or variety program, and outstanding stunt performance.
Yeah. That's questionable. Especially with the idea of having a disabled actor playing a disabled character and your stunt coordination not operating in a manner that is physically possible to be done by a disabled actor playing a disabled character. Excuse you? So yeah, I don't like that.
Alexis, I love the reaction you just gave, so if you want to come back in and chime on that, you're welcome to.
It's a good joke. It's a great joke. But I'm going to need it to stop.
I will say, we do have to end the show, but I want to say one of the nominations that I think does make the most sense for Marvel is Loki receiving outstanding original main title theme music and outstanding music composition for a series. Because that was inarguable. Natalie Holt, she got her bag. She went all the way with it. We will be continuing the Emmys commentary over the coming weeks as the Emmy starts to shape before us. My poor desired Andrew Garfield interview series that I have been teasing for months has yet again
it's just gonna get worse.
It continues to get worse as he's about to embark on his Emmys journey. We will be sharing content on TikTok, on Instagram, and here on our show every week as it all continues. But that is it for this week's after party. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Producer Liz and Producer Liz with 2 Z's on Twitter. And we're going into my birthday week, so make sure you're following me on Instagram specifically for all the commentary around that. Misa Bobisa, where can people find you?
You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Misa Bobisa, talking about all things media and theater and wigs.
Sly.
If you can hear music blaring in the background, I'm so sorry. But hi, I'm Sly. I'm deaf queer Jane Austen fan. You can find me everywhere on the internet at CycloneMC. You can find me getting tipsy with JJ, trying to fill the gap in our souls on hiatus between 911, watching each other's shows. You can find me on MC University talking about all the non-MCU Marvel movies, and you can find me on Point in Progress talking about video games and the likes. Yeah. That's all the things I do,
Hell
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And Alexis?
I love going after something that impressive to say, I'm Alexis. And sometimes I post content on the internet at Alexis D. Blake with an underscore at the end. That's all I got for you.
And the cats are on Instagram. Please
The
follow.
cats are on Instagram. Yes, you can follow them at Tommy and Sassy Blake. They're currently, in and out of being sick, so nothing has been posted. But
Soon, though. Soon.
soon.
And some of us will see you next week, and some of us will see you the week after, and some of us will see you the week after that, and some of us will see you the week after that, and then it's going to be August 27th, and we'll all be back. Until then, we will see you in different combos over the coming weeks. Make sure you follow us at After Party Show on Instagram and Twitter so you know who is showing up when and what commentary is happening when. We'll be back with Only Murders next week. Maybe some zombies commentary, more Emmys commentary, and even more as we get closer to She-Hulk. Bye, everybody.
До свидания.